Happy Thursday to you, everyone. I hope you're having a great day today. Today I want to talk about whiskers. Yeah, not the kind I have here, this facial hair, but the kind that's on Captain over here. Turn your head here just a little bit, Captain. These long whiskers right here on the snout. See how he's really sensitive about them? And the ones that are coming over his eyebrows, you probably can't see on the camera right there. Free. So I just drew a little diagram for you up here on the board. Okay, so animals have whiskers. Whiskers, they come off the muzzles here, our dogs do, and sometimes you'll see these really long eyebrows, these long hairs that come over the eyes. The ones that if Kira saw them on me, she'd want to reach over there and pluck them right out. Yeah, anything that's kind of loose and wavy in the wind on my face or on my eyebrows or anywhere like that, even my hair's a little wild today, she wants to pluck it out. I'm sure a lot of you guys get that going on there. Okay, but what are whiskers and why is this so important? Why did I even write in the description, hey, trimming your whiskers is a bad thing? It is. Trimming the whiskers on your dog, because why? They're not really hairs per se. They are sensory organs. Yeah, they're known, AKA, known as tactile hairs or vibrissa. Vibrissa, yeah, that's what they are, meaning from the old Latin word vibrio, meaning to vibrate. So those old vibrissae follicles that dogs have, those things are really sensitive, and their sensory organs are served by the trigeminal nerve, which just happens to be one of the largest of the 12 pairs of cranial nerves running through your dog's head, larger than the optic nerve, the olfactory nerve, and even the auditory nerve. So there you go. So again, pay attention because these whiskers happen to have ownership of the largest nerve of the 12 pairs of canine cranial nerve system. So that means nature put them there for a reason. Why in the world would you have whiskers? Well, whiskers transmit specific information to the brain. And in fact, did you know that about 40% of the area of the brain that's occupied by touch, the sensory touch, is all the touch, 40% of that comes from the face. So yeah, of 100% ability of your dog's brain to sense the world around the physical tactile touch, 40% of it is controlled or transmitted right through the face. Yeah, so again, these whiskers serve a purpose. So what do they really do? Man, they're again connected to a follicle, to the dermal sheath, and through the dermal sheath are these nerves that run through it that transmit energy and information to the brain so that the brain can actually determine things about it in its physical surrounding. Dogs can actually sense objects and other creatures without even touching them. Yeah, man, this kind of stuff is crazy when you think about how adaptive they are to their world. And there's no evidence right now. This thing's been studied quite a bit by over in Germany and Switzerland. They've done a lot of studies on whiskers and exactly what do they do. There's a lot of anecdotal theories going on and studies, and then there's some real down-to-earth type studies. But we kind of know just from observation alone. Observations. You saw with Captain there, when I touched his face, he immediately wanted to move away. Just move away a little bit. And I'll talk about that in a second. But these whiskers, they transmit specific information to the brain about nearby objects or creatures by sensing their vibrations. Yeah, they sense their vibrations through movement in the air. Or as the earth itself, as you move on the earth, you create a vibration. As wind, I'll even draw up here. You have trees out in the forest here, so I'll just draw a couple trees here. There we go. Well, as wind travels through the forest, it goes around these trees. It moves through here. And it creates a vibration in the trees, a vibration in the air. When animals move, they create vibration. When we have mice in what's called the subnivean space, there's all this snow right up here, and then there's the earth itself. Well, that's where they hang out for most of the winter. So I can't see it as a wolf, and I can't always rely on my nose because in the cold, as air molecules contract, it's a harder time to use your nose to smell things. So again, those whiskers can actually pick up the movement of that mouse in the subnivean space. They can also help protect an animal's face from injury. It's very important. Muzzle, its snout, so you don't damage the nose area, the ability to smell. Your eyes don't run into something. They detect it. As they're turning their head, those whiskers even come close. They already sense it, and they can tell darn near the size of the object, where it is in relation to them distance-wise. Quite incredible when you think about it. And again, so that means everything. These things were put there so that not only could they detect prey, but as they're traveling in low light, they can detect objects before they run dead smack right in front of them or right into them. And they gouge their eyes out with a tree branch. They're there to protect your dog and provide for your dog. So what happens when we trim them? All right, first of all, one thing, we've not been able to determine, is it painful? In fact, the greatest consensus is that's not painful if you trim the whiskers. But you need to think of it kind of like a amputation of sorts. It'll cause a temporary physical impairment, not pain. Physical impairment, meaning you just took my long whiskers that I'm using to sense objects in my world, air movement in my world. Why is it important even air movement? Not just to detect if there's an animal there. Imagine you got this big old elk over here, and air is moving around that elk. That's going to cause a vibration, a disturbance in that air. Also, that air, if you can sense the vibration of it, you may turn your head in that direction. Wolves and wild canids have been studied and observed, and I certainly have done it over the years, and noticed their ability to detect the direction of the wind. Yeah, we do all that stuff like lick our fingers and hold up to the air. that doesn't work so great. Just let me, in case you're going to try that, it's not so good. Pick up blades of grass and drop them. All sorts of means, light something like a match to see which way the smoke goes. We try to do all that we can to determine wind direction. Well, they're incredibly good at it. I mean, we found out they're incredibly good at it because of those darn whiskers. So again, when you go trimming these things, wow, tell you what, you just degraded your dog's ability to sense everything in its world from a vibration sense. Vibration, air movement, feeling things move, because they create a vibration that these whiskers pick up. So what happens there? Well, first of all, when you trim them, of course, we cause that impairment, which can then lead to your animal actually running into things, injuring themselves, so much so that for years over in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, in the show rings in which they'd show dogs and groom their faces and trim their faces way back tight to the muzzle, to the upper epidermis there, they would trim that. They noticed, and there was reported, a high incidence of these dogs becoming injured in their face, injured in their eyes, one injury after another. So they suspended it. They said, no more. You're not going to be trimming the face just for aesthetic reasons. Leave the whiskers alone. Because as these studies started coming out, as we started putting more energy in to find out what the heck do darn whiskers actually do. Once they did that, over a 2-year period, there were no reported injuries to the face or the eyes. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that your dog becomes physically impaired. You simply took away its ability to sense something, kind of like having eyes in the back of your head. You just blinded them. Okay, so what else can happen? Let's say you don't trim your whiskers. I don't trim Captain's whiskers. Cattle dog, up here, buddy. Good boy. But here's what else can happen with the dog. They can suffer what's called whisker fatigue or whisker stress. And what is that? Overstimulation. Way overstimulation. It can, again, think about it. Remember, what are these things connected to? The biggest nerve out of the 12 pairs of nerves in your dog's cranium. Yeah, so it does something. A lot of people make it a point to really pet their dogs off, which means I'm running my hands right now over Captain, those long sensory organs, those big old whiskers coming over his eyebrows. I'm running, and then when I touch his face right here, yeah, look at him. He flinches. He doesn't really like that. But so many people go, oh, what a cute dog, what a cute dog, what a cute dog. And they want to give it a kiss and everything. And here's your dog going into overdrive. Kind of like me, going from Alaska, and all of a sudden I went down to Las Vegas. I was done. Give me about 3 hours there, I was done. I wanted to leave. I was not born in a big city. Big cities caused me to have sensory overload, and I was done with it. But a lot of dogs get petted heavily on their face or they get these whiskers trimmed, and it can cause stress to the whiskers. And as a result of that, here's another thing that can happen. Yep, free. It can also happen from eating out of a bowl that's too small. Now, this is a large bowl because this is the size of bowl that I feed Captain from. So his face doesn't touch the side of the bowl. It's been determined that many dogs will stand over a bowl of food, looking at the food. They're hungry. They want to eat. Or they'll pace back and forth. Or this is something that one of our personal dogs was doing, one of our little Morkies. She would reach in, pluck food, run off, and eat it somewhere else. Come back, pluck another piece of food, run off, and eat it somewhere else. Well, lo and behold, you know why? The bowl was too small. It was too small. She was suffering from stimulation overload. And obviously it affected her enough to where she just got that little piece of food and ran off, willing to leave her food, which she doesn't want to leave. Trust me, there's other dogs eating nearby. But it affected her that much that she grabbed it and ran. As soon as the bowl was increased, the size of the bowl, no more running off. Think about that. Make sure that the bowl that you use is large enough so that your dog's head can go in it easily and get the food. And if you're using some sort of wet food and it's hugging the sides, watch your dog's behavior. Some dogs, it doesn't seem to bother them, but many of them it does. You may need to scrape that and put it back in the middle of the bowl, or just put something really big out there for the dog to be able to eat from. And if they got everything from the center, well, you got enough. You don't have to lick it absolutely clean. So think about using a big bowl, but most of all, really think about not trimming those whiskers. I get getting hair out of the eyes. You kind of need to do that trim around the eyes, but watch out for those big old whiskers coming off the eyes, off the top here. Be careful with it. Man, I tell you, more and more studies are coming out. Maybe people just have time on their hands nowadays and they got plenty of money at the universities. But these are some recent studies and they're very revealing. So there you go, guys. If you have a dog who has a face that needs to be groomed, and man, I was reading on these studies, and just to be honest with you, I was reading about them. I knew a little bit about whiskers and what they do, what purpose they serve, but gosh, I didn't know it went that deep. And then all of a sudden I felt, wow, our Morkies get groomed. Yeah, they get kind of trimmed around the face. In fact, Poe, her fur grows up. It doesn't grow out. It grows up. You let her go about a month from a groomer, she can't see anything. So yeah, now we do have impairment. We have visual impairment. She can't see a thing. So we were always, for years, asking the groomer, hey, trim close, get this back so this hair doesn't sprout up in her eyes and she'll become fearful because she can't see. No longer. No, just going to have to deal with it. We'll just have to trim those hairs and be careful trimming those hairs and not trimming those whiskers. Because I don't want to do that to my dogs. I've seen it. I've lived it. Yep, small bowl, they backed away. They plucked food out of it or they didn't eat. Trimmed their whiskers and suddenly they're running into things. They seem a little bit more nervous about their environment. Yeah, so I learned, and unfortunately they had to learn the hard way, but now I know, and now I won't do that in the future. And I advise that you do the same thing. Be careful of these whiskers, guys. They're part of survival value. They help animals to survive, even though you're going to feed them. Again, they don't have that in their head. Let them use what nature gave them. Let's just stay away from it. Hunt cow dog, hop up here, buddy. Ah, boy. Yeah, I'm going to pet you over here, give you a little rub behind the ears. I'm just going to have to stay off those whiskers, guys. Or maybe I'll just hand you something. There you go. And you can just grab it yourself. How about that? Okay, guys, that's it for today. Watch out for those whiskers. Have a great day. Free. Attaboy. Yeah, those are really, really long whiskers.